Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I now give the floor to the permanent representative of the Kingdom of Bahrain, His Excellency Dr. Yusuf Abdel Karim Buchiri, to give his opening remarks. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends. It is an honor and a privilege to address you this afternoon to showcase one of many of the Kingdom's success story of empowering Bahraini women and creating pathways for the implementation of the 2030 agenda. I warmly welcome you all. As committed Human Rights Council member, Bahrain aims to host a series of beside events. With this marking the first of the series, the Kingdom reiterates its unwavering commitment to women's empowering and realizing the SDGs Agenda 2030. Given the thematic focus of women during the 41st session of the Human Rights Council, the Kingdom seized the opportunity to share its achievements and opening wider areas for Bahraini women to serve the country in political, economic, and social spheres. Through the visionary leadership of Her Royal Highnesses, Princess Sabika bint Ibrahim Al Khalifa, the President of the Supreme Council for Women, Bahrain has worked towards, inter alia, activating the rights detailed in international instruments and implementing national strategies guaranteeing equal for women, streamlining commitment with the SDGs, and activating the Bahraini women's role as a partner and leader in the national building process. Today, we have an honor of hearing from the panelists which have been played a pivotal role in developing and showcasing women's empowerment. Her Excellency Dr. Sheikha Rana bint Isa Al Khalifa, the first Undersecretary for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and a member of the Supreme Council of Women, and Sheikha Dina bint Rashid Al Khalifa, Director General for Policies and Development at the Supreme Council for Women in Bahrain. I'm deeply grateful for your attendance and I wish you a very fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Her Excellency Dr. Sheikha Rana bint Isa bint Al Khalifa is the first woman in Bahrain who appointed as Undersecretary for the Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs in Bahrain. Her Excellency is a career diplomat which holds a PhD in international law from Exeter University. Her Excellency has worked in various fields such as prohibition of chemical weapons, trafficking in humans, empowerment of women, bilateral and multilateral affairs. Without further ado, I pass the floor to Her Excellency. Your Excellency, you now have the floor.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to participate in this interactive dialogue session organized thanks to the efforts of the permanent mission of the Kingdom of Bahrain to the United Nations at Geneva. Today, to shed light on our national efforts in the Kingdom towards the advancement of Bahraini women. Through our presentation today, we will explain the nature and uniqueness of the Bahraini experience in the field of women's rights and the women's contributions to the developments of society. Here, I would like to clarify that this participation, which dates back to the 1920s, was not haphazard or transit, but an essential part of a national modernization plan, the achievements of which we will share with you here today. We are hopeful that this session will lay the foundation for future cooperation to open new horizons for constructive dialogue to bring opinions closer and exchange expertise between the Kingdom of Bahrain and international organizations on how to sustain institutional efforts to push forward the contributions of women and ensure her participation as an active partner in development. Perhaps it is our good fortune that this high-level dialogue session coincides with the occurrence of a number of new achievements in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bahrain, showing the maturity of the participation of Bahraini women as follows. The first is the appointment of the first woman Undersecretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as well as the first woman Executive Director of the Diplomatic Institute and 5 women directors managing political portfolios on national, regional, and international level. 2, the appointment of Bahraini women ambassadors in key embassies around the world, such as France, the Kingdom of Belgium, the United Kingdom, China, and the United States of America. 3, Bahraini women today also constitute 32% of the ministry employees. 4, the participation of Bahraini-based women diplomats is 38.4%, while 15.6% are women diplomats posted in various embassies around the world. 5, currently female diplomats make up majority of the most important political directorates at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. For instance, the female diplomats make up 81% of the European Affairs and European Union Directorate, while they make 54.5% of the Afro-Asian Directorate. 6, in the last entry exam organized by the Diplomatic Training Institute in June of 2019, 37.5% of women have qualified to enter the ministry as career diplomats. 7, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs both organizes and participates in workshops organized by other entities, whether governmental or private. Our latest statistics collected in January of 2019 have shown that the participation of women in workshops organized in the Kingdom of Bahrain stood at 50.7%, and the participation of men stood at 49.2%. 8, on another note, the Diplomatic Institute at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has recently introduced foreign languages, starting with French to be the first foreign language taught at the Institute. The percentage of women enrolled is 63.6%, while the percentage of men is 36.3%. 9, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs also nominated a number of its employees to participate in the international programs hosted by the United States of America, Montenegro, and other countries. The participation of women in the previous mentioned programs were 42.8%. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has introduced a series of initiatives to support women's advancement in the workplace, including the establishment of the Equal Opportunities Committee. The Foreign Ministry is currently working on a strategy as well as specific policies to increase the number of women working in the Foreign Service. In conclusion, I would like to thank you all for your attention. Please allow me to introduce one of the members of the delegation of the Kingdom of Bahrain, Sheikh Adina bint Rashid Al Khalifa, Director General of Policies and Development at the Supreme Council for Women, who will give a presentation with further details on the progress of women from the perspective of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda. Thank you very much, Sheikh Adina.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you for allowing us this time to be able to shed light on, as Sheikh Anna just mentioned, the experiences and the efforts of the Kingdom of Bahrain as it regards to the advancement of Bahraini women. And today, with the presentation that we will be giving, the idea is to be able to show what is the linkage or what is the relationship and how the efforts of Bahrain are very much aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals for and Agenda 2030. But before I start this presentation and before we get into the relationship between the SDGs 2030 it's very much important to highlight, as Sheikh Rana just mentioned in her presentation, a number of factors or historic factors that have really contributed to the advancement of Bahraini women. So dating back to the 1920s, so with the start of formal education for girls as early back as 1928, and during that time with giving women the right to be able to vote in municipal elections, and later on in the 1930s granting women sponsored education abroad, all contributed to a number of milestones moving forward. So as early as the 1950s, as you can see on the screen, Bahraini women have established women-related civil society associations that were registered in the Kingdom of Bahrain. And in the 1960s, women started establishing their own businesses. So they became entrepreneurs in various different disciplines. In the 1970s, women started holding or attaining professional certifications and becoming professionals in various different areas, such as being lawyers, engineers, working in the military, amongst many other different areas. So that all of which has contributed to where Bahraini women are today. Moving on to another major milestone back in 2001 with the approval of a national referendum. A new referendum in Bahrain was issued and voted upon, which is the National Action Charter, allowing Bahraini women a number of added rights, and the focus of women was very much there within the National Action Charter. And actually one of the outcomes of the National Action Charter was the establishment of the Supreme Council for Women as an organization that serves as a consultative entity to His Majesty the King directly, but also serves as a consultative organization to all of the public sector organizations. So the SCW was established in 2001. Her Royal Highness, the First Lady of Bahrain, is the President of the Council. It comprises of 16 women members, each coming from various different disciplines, all coming together to set the policies and to be able to set the strategies moving forward. Of course, Sheikh Rana with us today is a member of this council, and as I mentioned, the council itself is focused on a number of major milestones or major elements or points in terms of its mandate. One of which, of course, one of the major areas where the Supreme Council for Women focuses on since its establishment in 2001 is to be able to propose new legislations and policies that relate to women. And not only to propose new legislations, but to also be able to suggest new amendments to current and existing legislations. And a lot has happened in that discipline. One of the other areas of specialization of the SCW is to be able to not only prepare, but also conduct and monitor the implementation of a national strategy for the advancement of Bahraini women. And as you can imagine, at the time, the efforts of women, or let's say the topic of women, is very much cross-cutting in all of the different topics. So you'll find women justice and housing and education and health. So it was very important at the time for the Supreme Council for Women to have a national strategy to be able to consolidate all of these efforts into one strategy to be able to guide us moving forward in that discipline. Also, it's part of the mandate of the Supreme Council for Women to be able to conduct research and studies and maintain databases that shows a lot of the status of women, and it guides us ultimately in knowing how to move forward in decision-making aspects. It is also the responsibility of the Supreme Council for Women to raise society's awareness as to the role and rights and duties of women. It may be one thing to be able to issue a number of laws and legislations, but it's also equally important for Bahraini women and society to be able to be aware and knowledgeable of these elements and these aspects. And of course, the Kingdom of Bahrain has also tasked the SCW to represent Bahraini women in international forums and organizations, as we are doing today. So the SCW is the organization that has been tasked with this task. Now, moving forward and talking about our international relations and cooperation, the SCW has been working since its establishment by working with its counterparts regionally, internationally, and establishing MOUs and partnerships, like I said, at both the regional and international level. It's also our role to be able to follow up the activation of international conventions and agreements. And in addition to that, it's also the role of the Supreme Council for Women to be able to prepare and follow up the implementation of international reports such as the CEDAW report. And now, over the years, the Supreme Council for Women has been very much proud of its international memberships and being a part of international institutions that have been very much effective in women's issues. Namely, the Council has been a member since 2017 of the Commission on the Status of Women up until 2021. As It's also been a member for the last 2 years of the UN Executive Board. And also through this membership at the UN Women Executive Board, it has managed to gain the support of UN Women in adopting a national initiative on a global agenda, which is Her Royal Highness Mrs. Sadiqa Ibrahim Al Khalifa Global Award for Women Empowerment. And so this is a national award that's been launched by UN Women based upon the experiences of Bahrain that recognize the efforts of countries all over the world in terms of women's empowerment and women's advancement. Now, talking about the status of Bahraini women, it's important to highlight that the Council, as I said earlier, monitors quite closely the status of Bahraini women in international reports. And in this regard, there are a number of notable achievements that are worth highlighting today and have all contributed to where we are today, and actually highlight and showcase what Bahraini women have managed to accomplish. For example, the Human Development Report 2018 has ranked Bahrain at the 43rd worldwide. Human Capital Index has also determined that Bahrain is the first Arab nation and 47th worldwide, and that's as per the 2018 report. We also look at the Gender Gap Report quite closely, and in that regard, Bahrain has also managed to attain a number of key milestones or notable achievements that we follow quite closely. Now, talking about Bahraini women from an international sphere, it's important to highlight the status of Bahraini women on the ground and what Bahraini women have managed to achieve and accomplish over the last 18 to 20 years. And now, talking about Bahraini women in numbers, we wanted just to put on the screen a number of statistics that clearly show how things have advanced over the years. And here we've taken a time period of between 10 to 12 years just to show the growth and maturity of the advancement of Bahraini women in the country. And then later on, we're going to tie all of this in with how it relates to the Sustainable Development Goals and how it relates to clear goals within the SDGs. So by looking quite quickly at some of the numbers you have on the screen, it clearly shows that within the public sector, for example, the participation of women has increased from 38% to 50%, so at a rate of 12% over 12 years. It's also increased about 10% within the private sector. There's also been a drastic increase in the participation of women at the level of board of directors. So you'll find that Bahrain women today constitute 23% of boards of directors within the private sector over a very short period of time. And although women have been very much active within business and entrepreneurship, we also see that there is some increase in the participation of women within that area, whereby Bahraini women today are very much active in various different professional disciplines, whether they be academics, physicians, lawyers, or diplomats. And here, for example, Bahraini women today constitute 65% of all physicians, and even more lawyers as women than men at the rate of 57%. Now, talking about the political rights, it's very much important to highlight that it is the Constitution from beyond, let's say, the National Action Charter. It is actually the amendments of the Constitution that have really given women a lot of support moving forward. Namely, it has given women in public life the right to stand for elections, the right to vote and participate in national referendums, to assume public positions, and it's clearly and to establish and join NGOs. So these are some points that have been clearly stipulated within our Constitution of 2002 that have really boosted the participation of women moving forward. And then, of course, talking about the elections and talking about the parliament in general, Bahrain has also witnessed an overwhelming response in the participation of women in our recent elections last November, with 48%, increasing the number of women in parliament to 19%, whereby for the first time in the history of Bahrain, in the history of the region actually, a woman has been appointed as Speaker of the House. And that is an achievement that Bahrain is very much proud of. Now, talking about civil society, as you can see, Bahraini women have been very much active in different disciplines within civil society, whereby today Bahrain has 21 women-related civil society associations. Now, talking about the social issues of the social rights, just a few numbers on the screen to show you that over the last 10 years, the estimated income for women has actually doubled at a rate of 91%. Even when it comes time to looking at the beneficiaries of the government today offers social security to families in general, and that rate has actually decreased by 83% over the last 4 years, actually showing an increase in the financial independence of women overall. Now, of course, women today constitute overwhelmingly 65% of higher education, and the life expectancy of women has actually increased over the last few years to reach 78 years. So all of that shows you where we are in that regard. Now, talking about the SDGs, before I talk about Bahrain Women and the SDGs in particular, I just wanted to take a moment to be able to talk about the fact that today Bahrain has taken a number of notable steps in following up and monitoring and adopting the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'll start with the Government Action Plan as one of the most important executive documents issued by government and followed up by all public sector institutions. This document itself has been aligned with the SDGs at the rate of 78%, talking about following up the progress and implementation of the SDGs from beyond the Government Action Plan. The government has actually tasked a National Information Committee, which has been established by the government of Bahrain in order to be able to follow up the status of Bahrain globally in terms of major indicators. And it is one of their tasks to be able to monitor and follow up the progress on the implementation of the SDGs. Bahrain has also been proud of submitting its first national voluntary report, and this happened last year, I believe last June. And then, of course, in order to further ensure that these indicators are monitored and followed up, our IGA, which is the Information and eGov Authority, has actually established a unit or a department to be able to monitor the indicators relating to SDGs and to be able to show us where we are today in terms of its implementation. What are the red flags? Are there things that need to be notified? Are there certain areas that need to be looked at? So these are certain points. So this department was established within the IGA to follow up just that. Now, looking at the SDGs and where do we, how does Bahrain Women, where do Bahrain Women stand in terms of the SDGs? We just wanted to highlight that relating to any one of the goals you have in front of you, when talking about Goal 10, for example, we wanted to highlight that Bahrain today does not show any wage gap in terms of work. As I mentioned earlier, Bahraini women's income has increased or doubled over the last 10 years. When talking about good health and well-being, life expectancy has also increased. 100% access to free primary health care in terms of talking about the quality of education, which is also a very important aspect. Bahrain today shows Bahrain women have access today to free mandatory primary and secondary education. Looking at gender equality, and this is something that we'll get into a little bit, Bahrain has actually not only focused on laws and legislations, but also on its policies that relate to looking at the status of women in general and be able to looking at various different aspects in that regard. So as you can see, this slide clearly shows the relationship between the SDGs and Bahraini women today, whereby talking about goal number 16, for example, peace, justice, and strong institutions, Bahrain today is very proud that women have access to an independent judicial system that is in compliance, of course, to our constitution, first and foremost, which ensures fair trial, the right to defense, and judicial assistance. And those are some matters that I hope look forward to presenting in more detail in a little bit. So talking about the SDGs, we've taken today within this presentation 3 goals that we wanted to kind of zero in on and kind of highlight in terms of how does this particular goal relate to the national efforts and what are the national indicators that kind of show the relationship. And so when it comes to gender equality, as goal 5, of course, the goal clearly highlights the achievement of gender equality and empowering of women and girls. And on a national level, what Bahrain has decided to do in order to be able to monitor that aspect was to be able to, now let me take a step back. You can imagine that our national strategy for the grants of Bahraini women is a very much demanding and very much, yes, demanding strategy. So it was important for the Supreme Council of Women at the time to be able to come up with the right mechanisms to ensure that such a demanding strategy can be then followed up upon and can be achieved quite clearly on the ground. And in that regard, one of the mechanisms that were put into place was a governance framework for mainstreaming women's needs into development and to ensuring equal opportunities and gender balance within society. And so having that framework was important for Bahrain because it gave us an opportunity to be able to highlight what are some of the major areas or pillars that we need to focus on in order to be able to ensure equal opportunities is actually implemented on the ground. And so who are, and the other question was, so who are the major stakeholders in implementing such a framework? And so having identified these clear areas was quite important for us in order to move forward. And as you can see, this governance framework focused on policies, focused on gender-sensitive budgeting, on knowledge management, Audit and monitoring is an aspect that I'll be talking quite a bit about, as well as measuring impact. So in a nutshell, this is our framework and how it operates as a model. And one of the areas where the Supreme Council of Women worked quite closely with the government on is establishing equal opportunity units or committees. Now, equal opportunity committees as a mechanism was established by or was recommended by the Supreme Council for Women, and we actually worked quite closely with government agencies in order to be able to convince them as to the value of having focal points or committees in each and every, let's say, government agency in the country. And after having worked with these government agencies for 4 years, so this started back in 2000 and, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2008, 2009, after having worked with them for quite a few years, we managed to gain the support of our Civil Service Bureau, now allowing equal opportunities committees to become mandatory within all organizational structures within the government. So equal opportunity committees serve not only as focal points, but as a unit or a committee that evaluates the status of women and equal opportunities within the organization. Because today, as we all know, each organization has its own specific nature or mandate for which it operates in, so it's not a one-size-fits-all. But what was important was to make sure that we had the right mechanism in place for these committees to be able to evaluate themselves and to evaluate their policies and their programs and their support services, and for them to be able to come up with the recommendations and their own action plan moving forward, and showing what needs to be done within that particular organization in order to be able to, for it to improve. So having equal opportunity committees may have seemed at the time to be something quite minor, but moving forward and over the years, they have shown to be quite effective with a number of positive best practices that have been issued by these committees and by these organizations. So all in all, we have seen very positive results. Gender-sensitive budgeting is also a mechanism that has been adopted by the Kingdom of Bahrain through the Ministry of Finance, and it has been quite widely distributed all over the government. Just if you'll allow me just to focus on a couple of other elements, which is the National Gender Balance Report and our National Observatory. Those are two elements that were introduced quite recently in Bahrain, so not more than 1 or 2 years. The idea behind them was that you can imagine that this national framework was launched back in 2008, and so after 8 or 9 years, it was important for the council to be able to see to what extent has this model been effective. It's one thing to have a framework, it's one thing to have a strategy, we have equal opportunity committees all over Bahrain, but to what extent are they quite effective and giving certain results? Because you can imagine that we saw that there was a variety, or let's say there was a range of efforts coming from different organizations. So the council decided that, okay, you know what, we need to have a tool to be able to show us to what extent these organizations are adhering to their equal opportunity policies and gender balance issues. And with that, the council decided to draft a national gender balance report, or the concept of having a national gender balance report, something similar to what Davos issues globally, but something more specific to Bahrain. And what this report does is that it looks at it not just from a thematic perspective, but it also looks at it from the basically from the perspective of the organizations themselves. So we look at it from an institutional angle and from a thematic angle. So we look at health, education, civil society, social issues. We look at women in decision-making respects. And so that is the thematic aspect. The let's say the more organizational aspect or institutional element to this report shows you that over 36 institutions that have been evaluated, to what extent are these 36 public sector institutions adhering to these policies, and what is really the gap between women and men within various different disciplines. And in that regard, we look at it from different aspects. So we look at it from hiring to promotion to support services to training and education. So we look at it from various different angles. And so this report, before it was conducted, it was actually, without the support of government, it would not have succeeded. So the first step that the council did last year was to be able to propose this particular report to government in order to be able to seek its advice and be able to seek its approval and moving forward in order for us to ensure its effective implementation within the government. And then the second aspect, of course, is the fact that Bahrain today is very much proud of having, after measured or gathered indicators over the last 18 years, today it is proud of having a national observatory for gender balance indicators that has almost 4,000 indicators within its complete database. And the common question that we often get in that regard is how can we have access to this information? How can we have access to updated indicators? In this regard, the Council has actually developed a mobile application, as you can see on the phone, that is available on both the Apple and Android stores, that you can download today and receive up-to-date information relating to gender balance indicators in Bahrain. Also, when it comes to the second goal, which we have taken for today, which is goal number 10, and reducing inequalities within and among countries, we wanted to highlight today that, like I mentioned in the very beginning, a number of key articles that are clearly stipulated within our Constitution, the equality of women and men in political, social, cultural, and economic life, as well as women's right to participate in public affairs and to enjoy political rights, including the right to vote and stand for elections. So, having had those articles within our Constitution, it actually paved the way for added advancements within the country. So, having a comprehensive economic vision 2030, acceding to CEDAW as a convention, major labor market reforms were conducted, having an active civil society, introducing a national audit court that monitors the effectiveness of government, and then introducing or establishing a national human rights institution. So all of these major elements actually contribute to how Bahrain has translated goal number 10 into reality. And the last aspect, or the last element that today we'd like to highlight, which is very near and dear to us, which is goal number 16 within peace, justice, and strong institutions, because of the fact that Bahrain, since the establishment of the SCW, has focused on, as part of its mandate, looking at amending and introducing a lot of laws that relate to women and families. And with that, a new law has been introduced on, which is an anti-domestic violence law, back in 2015. Another law that relates to families has also been issued back in 2017. So there have been a number of laws that have been introduced. The establishment of an alimony fund, for example, in cases where husbands are unable to pay alimonies for families, a fund has been established by the state in order to support women in that regard. When it comes to looking at family issues, today a Bahraini can appeal to the highest courts of appeal when it comes to issues that relate to families, which is to the Court of Cassation. So there is this process of appeal and to the very highest courts, and to be able to apply to certain cases. But not only are there advancements in terms of laws and regulations and policies, but there are a number of new advancements that have been introduced in terms of support services for families. And with that, I'm very proud to kind of mention one of the projects that the SCW has worked quite closely with, which is the family courts. So our family courts today are now independent location, whereby families have access to the court system away from all the other courts, and have all of the services that relate to women within under one umbrella, namely of which the family mediation offices. In the past, family mediation was something that was very much voluntary for families. Today, any divorce case that gets put forth to the court must seek the advice of the family mediation. So family mediation has become mandatory in Bahrain before approaching the court system. So that is one of the major achievements. And then, of course, the establishment of a family and child section within our public prosecution, which also looks after the close specific nature of families. Our police stations today actually have particular offices that look after family issues. So today, families do not, within the traditional context of police stations, do not have to approach directly to police stations for their requests. There has been, they've developed or what they call a family protection office to look after the affairs of families. And of course, last but not least, the Women's Support Center. So the Supreme Council of Women today has a full-fledged center that looks after the issues or complaints and requests of Bahraini women. So it almost serves like a front desk for any type of inquiry or question that a Bahraini woman may have. They can approach the center and they can guide them to the right institution or service that offers this type of service. So in brief, the support center does not offer all services to women, but at least but the role of it is to complement the national efforts when it comes to women's issues, and they will be able to guide you in the right direction. Now, in terms of the services that they do offer legal consultations, family consultations, as well as many others. In addition to, they contribute to following up state services that relate to women, whether it be through housing or nationality or any other topic. So thank you very much for listening, and I do apologize for the long presentation. Thank you.
I have two questions. Usually, the first step to be able to accomplish complete women empowerment is to set the rules and regulations and the laws and the policies to support women, enabled women, to be able to reach those positions and to participate in the community and decision making in the country. So I would like to know about your experience in identifying the gaps in the laws and the policies, and how was that done, and how much have you accomplished towards that? The second question I'd like to ask you, and that's from my experience as being working as a Vice Minister of Social Development, we have a lot of difficulties in convincing women to get outside of their comfort zone of working in, for instance, in specific jobs or specific roles, and joining the decision-making and leadership, and also in, for instance, in policy-making or in diplomacy or in all those leadership positions. Women have done very well in leading worldwide, leading non-governmental organizations, but they did not do very well in being members of parliament or leadership positions. Some of it due to policies and regulations, a lot or what we call the glass ceiling that sometimes limit women, and sometimes women find it difficult to step forward and take that position, get out of their comfort zone. So what are the efforts that Kingdom of Bahrain have done to accomplish or to get over that challenge? Thank you very much.
I think that what has really helped Bahrain is the fact that our education has started very early on. The fact that Bahraini women have been educated abroad as early as the 30s, so coming back in the 40s and starting working in professional organizations. So we're not talking about a generation today that is facing troubles. You're talking about me today being third or fourth generation of women that have been very active in society and have been very active in professional jobs. So today it has become much easier for me as a third or fourth generation Bahraini woman to be able to practice and take on my jobs, whereby my parents have gone to universities and my grandparents have actually studied abroad. So it all trickles down, I believe, to these generations. However, what ultimately will affect women and work is basically the awareness and education and awareness. However, I believe that today we're in a much better position than we were 50 or 60 years ago. Today the concept of work is very much different than it was back then. Today work has a lot of flexible parameters. Whereby, in the past, we were always talking about either working in the public sector or in the private sector. Then, of course, entrepreneurship became quite big, and particularly in the region. And the SCW in particular conducted a number of entrepreneurship or women empowerment initiatives to be able to encourage women to become more financially independent in the workplace and not just rely on, okay, today I'll either work in the public sector or I'll work in the private, but to have the opportunity to work within entrepreneurship or business. Today, in 2018 or 19 or even 20, we hear of various different developments within the fourth industrial revolution that show us that women today can work from the comfort of their own home, through freelancing, through various different digital platforms. So work today, even part-time work has become quite big. So what I'm trying to say is that the forms of work and its flexible nature will actually allow women to become more involved within the workplace, and it will enhance women's participation and having more and more support services and having more areas for flexible work.
My question is related to the monitoring mechanism. Your Excellency who very ably conducted the work of the President General Assembly. I think the first woman president of the General Assembly from OIC member states. So I think that's an extremely important milestone, at least in the context of what we do here in the UN. So whilst I was quite well aware of how women progress is taking place in Bahrain, but what important aspect this side event has highlighted is how well the women progress is being mainstreamed in the SDGs achievement. So I think this is an extremely important and useful briefing, and I appreciate you and thank you for inviting us to this. Thank you.
Like all others before me, I would like to thank His Excellency Ambassador Yusuf Bushari of the Kingdom of Bahrain here for organizing this important event. We welcome the panelists, Her Excellency Dr. Sheikh Al Khalifa and Sheikh Dina Al Khalifa, and thank them for the very valuable input. Indeed, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals adopted by our world leaders in 2015 embody a roadmap for progress that is sustainable and leaves no one behind, and it has to leave no Arab women behind also. And Goal 5 is very important. Gender equality is a right, as we all know, but all other SDGs are just as important and intersect with gender equality, and therefore what the presentation has clearly showed, the intersection with and the focus on Goal 10 and Goal 16 are indeed very important, and we see that the Kingdom of Bahrain has incorporated this in their overall implementation roadmap. Achieving gender equality and women's empowerment is integral to each of the 17 goals, and only by ensuring the rights of women and girls across all the goals will we be able to ensure justice and equality, and that more participation for our future generations. And we all agree that women in our world, Arab world specifically, make up half of the society, and we want active, fruitful, successful outcomes of our progress in our countries, and we need to ensure women are empowered and are part and parcel of the development processes that we all have and are active participants in the public space, as you very well said, and in all spheres of life and in decision making at the national level. We need to strengthen our women participation and so on and so forth, and ensure inclusive, gender-responsive policies and equal opportunities. And this is why what we have listened to, therefore, on the Bahraini experience, on the achievements made to date at the national and the national efforts in this regard, including at the level of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is most commendable. The statistics and information shared with us today is indeed very impressive, and we thank you for that. And all of us here around the table can learn from each other. So we will be studying also closely the input you also kindly circulated to all of us here. My question to you today is, what are the challenges really, most preoccupying challenges that you have in terms of implementing the 2030 agenda, and the priorities, the top priorities, and how will you go about addressing them? You are entities that represent women, but is there, and following up on the question of His Excellency Ambassador of Egypt, is there a way at the national level, through partners, through committees, other committees, is there a higher committee? How do you deal with the government itself? To what extent is there interaction with civil society as a main actor and partner in this process? So these are a few of the questions I have, and it would be, I would very much appreciate it if you could shed further light on the achievements you have done in this regard. Thank you very much.